Hey everybody, it's an author interview today here. I'm the host Sofia Wren, and I'm the creator of the Sacred Armor, Creating Better Boundaries for Sensitive Women e-course. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Jamie Saloff, and she is the author of the book Transformational Healing, Five Surprisingly Simple Keys Designed to Redirect Your Life Towards Wellness, Purpose, and Prosperity. And I'd love to have her introduce herself. And here she is. Could you tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, I am Jamie Saloff. I am an author. I am a Lilydale trained intuitive. Lilydale is a psychic community in upstate New York, so it's a really cool place. I am also, for 15 years, I have designed books and helped authors self-publish, and a host of other things. I wear many hats. Everything from I do my own web design to creating beaded jewelry to golfing. So I am multifaceted.
Fantastic. I love that. I'm also multifaceted, changes with the wind, what projects I'm focused on, but I'm also a writer and I also do intuitive work too. So think we have like souls here and I'm
Yep.
really excited. Cool. So we're going to be talking today about Jamie's work and her book. And if you are online right now, it's about 2 p.m. on May 27th, 2014. If you're online now and you want to come hang out with us, you are completely welcome to. We have a little spot in the little spot on Facebook actually, which you can get to from www.22s.com/51900/authors. And we have a special little author circle here, author interview circle. And feel free to send us some questions and we will answer them by Jamie. So, what I'd love to hear a little bit more about is this specifically. I think you wanted to feature this book, which is one of many of your books. But I would love to know a little bit about it and why it feels special to you.
Okay. Well, I just happen to have a copy here. Let's see if I can hold it up.
Pretty.
So this is my what I call my big book. It's Transformational Healing. And the one thing that I would change about this book, if I could, is the title. Because at the last minute, I let the cover designer convinced me to change the title, and I thought it was totally awesome at the time. But what I found out is that people who buy the book sometimes buy it for the wrong reason. So what happens is people will come and they'll say, oh, my best friend just found out she has breast cancer, so you have a healing book, I'm going to buy her this book. And what happens is those people are in healing crisis, and they're really not ready for the material that's in this book yet. They'll be ready down the road a piece, just like I was when I went through my cancer experience. So the people who really should be reading this book are people who are looking to shift something in their lives. It's like they know that they could be bigger or better than they are right now. It's like there's this part of themselves out there in the world somewhere that they can feel inside themselves, but they don't know how to get to it. And so this book kind of gives them the steps to do that. And one of the key elements of it is it usually helps people the most who have had some sort of pain, illness, disease, injury, even like old injuries that haven't healed or old surgeries that didn't heal properly. You can use those body songs or body messages to find a quick guided action step to move forward. So that's really what the core of this book is about.
Fantastic. I love that. As I have a background of being a massage therapist also, and I know how our body and our intuition and the process of healing are all so intertwined. So I think that's really cool, and I'm excited to learn more about your book for sure. Really cool. So I'd love to ask you another question too, and to talk more about your own inspiration, because a lot of us have healing experiences, but not necessarily all of us write about them. So I'd love to hear what inspired you to go through that long process of writing and editing and getting your book designer and all of that. What inspired
Well,
you?
I guess I want to say that I always knew I was going to be a writer. I mean, always. I taught myself how to type at age 8 on an old manual typewriter because it was like calling out to me even at a young age. But as far as this book goes, and I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 24 years old. I had a 2.5-year-old son, and at that time I didn't know if I was going to make it. I mean, I really didn't. And in fact, I kind of stopped writing a little bit at that time. I used to write a cute little newsletter, and I wouldn't write anything about my illness at that time because I thought if something happens to me, I do not want my son to go back to this newsletter and see all these horrible things that I went through. So I was writing little things about, oh, Matthew said this word or he did that, and I didn't say anything at all about that. So as I got to the other side of it, I began to be called to write. But at that time, I didn't believe I was good enough to write a book. I mean, writing a book at that time was like the furthest thing from my mind. What I really wanted to do was like get a magazine article published. And I'd be like, oh, I'd be in a magazine. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, I mean, that was as big as my dreams could be at that time. And I met a fella who mentored people in writing, and he asked me, well, what book are you going to write? And I'm like, I'm just going to write this little article, and I'm going to get published, and that'll be great. And he was like, I really think with the story that you have, you should be writing a book. And it actually took me 15 years to write this book, this transformational healing book, because I had so much to learn. But one of the key things that came out of that was that I read all of the icon works. I read Louise Hay, I read Carolyn Mass, I read Doreen Virtue, and many, many more. And I learned so much, but none of them were working for me. And I think it's because, like, you would go, for example, Louise Hay has her little blue book. You know, almost everybody's familiar with the Louise Hay list. And, okay, so you have this ailment, and you open up the book, and you look, and it says, okay, say this affirmation. But the affirmation just did not seem to fit for me. It just didn't seem personalized. It didn't seem unique enough for what I had been through. So as I started to create my process, I realized it had to be unique to the person, but it also had to be simple enough that anybody could do it, because I had struggled in the beginning. I knew nothing about healing on a spiritual level. I knew nothing about, you know, New Age concepts. I knew nothing about, everything I knew came from a foundational, basic understanding, plus, you know, what I had learned from being hospitalized. So I was like, how do I bring all these concepts into people so that regardless of where they've come from, you know, whatever their belief background is, they can tap into this. So all of those elements went into this book, and because of that, it took a little longer to write. This book in itself took 2 years to write, but I had been working on different ideas of it for 15 years. And honestly, you know, it started out that the book was like, me, 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 and more me, and I realized, you know, that isn't really going to help people as much as how what I learned can help you. And once I turned the book around to how it could help others, it just blossomed. So now there's 428 pages of everything I know about the experience I went in, but it's still simple to understand and helpful to a lot of people.
That's awesome. Wow. That is such a journey. It's really cool. I mean, I know that when we have the ideas to go behind the book, it does often take a long time when it's based on our own life experience and we're like processing that and like you were saying, kind of moving beyond the desire just to share our experience and into how can I phrase this, communicate this so it will help somebody else. That's really cool. And 2 years almost doesn't even seem like that much time for you to be, you know, writing hundreds and hundreds of pages. That honestly doesn't even seem that long. But I know,
Honestly,
of
it's
course, it's been going in your head for so long too.
mostly that I had to get out of my own way. One of my mentors teaches that the book is already written and inside of you, and you just have to open the door and let it flow out. And I kept shutting the door. So it's it's once you get out of your own way, and that's something that we could talk about a little further, but that's what really then opened the floodgates and let it out.
So cool. I like that idea too, and I try to give into um that sense that it's not just me making it and I have to get it all right. It it does go a lot better when you kind of surrender a little bit to the already formed book that is like in your cells waiting to be written. And I definitely resonate with that too. That's cool that you mentioned that. It's amazing. All right, cool. So I wanted to also touch on, you mentioned that that was a challenge. Um, did you have any other challenges about worrying about how people would perceive your book or how they would like your book? I know that for me in writing, sometimes that's the biggest hang up I have, and I'm just curious. Did you have any other?
Absolutely, and there's actually a blog series on my Author's Profit website that talks about some of the different personalities that I've run across tonight with authors and their fears about writing, and I've characterized them. For example, one of mine would be what I call the Joan of Arc, which means as soon as you put your book out there, someone's going to burn you at the stake, because obviously what you've written is out of the status quo or different from what everybody believes it should be, and so of course they're going to stone you and burn you, and obviously that didn't happen. I'm still here, and that's usually the case for most of us, but that's what we fear, and there's other fears too, it'll change me. One of my favorite authors, Carol Adrian, she wrote The Purpose of Your Life and several other books. She was also an integral part of the Celestine Prophecy workbooks. And she said that, she talked about her Oprah experience, how she had been on Oprah, and you were like, oh, how did that change your life? And everything must have just really taken off after that. And she was like, well, no, it really was just the same. I went and I was on Oprah, and it was a wonderful experience, and the next morning I got up and I still put my pants on one leg at a time, and life continued just as it was. It wasn't like, so that's another thing that we're worried about, that is if we step into this, that we'll lose a grip on the life that we had, the good parts that we want to keep, and that isn't necessarily something we are going to lose. We have control of that.
Hmm. That's really, it's interesting you mentioned that one, because that one's probably me. I'm probably the Joan of Arc fearing one.
Well, and there's several others. There is the um, oh shoot, I got to think of what there are. One of them is um, the Magi, what I call them, the Invisible Magi, and those are people who have really no social media access. I mean, it's like they have been successful business people. They have been, maybe very good in sales, but it was always hands-on and on the phone or person to person. And then they get thrown into, I've written a book, and now I have to do this social media thing. I don't know how to do this, and so I call them the Invisible Magi, because it's like they have this great thing, but they don't have a way to get it out there. There's also the ones that they're so busy helping others. I call them the Florence Nightingales, because they're so busy helping others, they don't take time to move their other stuff forward. And then there's the soapbox preachers. They're the ones that they're working so hard to sell their books that they almost come off as kind of obnoxious, and they need to kind of back it down a notch and learn some really good marketing techniques. So you can find more about that on my Author's Profit website. That's authorsprofit.com, and those are kind of fun to read. People like to read those.
Could you tell us a little bit about your title, The Author's Profit? I'm a little curious as to what that means to you.
Well, one of the things I'm working on right now is helping people to shift, and I talk a lot about healing. I talk about being in pain, and people are like, how does pain and healing, and you've written this healing book, and then yet you help people publish books. Those two things don't seem to go together. And I go, Louise Hay is a publisher and healer. But besides that, I think that healing has everything to do with writing a book, because a lot of the clients I'm working with, they are so, like, they're in a place right now where they're so overwhelmed. They've got life hitting them from every angle. They've got maybe some kind of chronic pain or migraines or joint pain or sinus trouble or digestive problems. I mean, the list goes on, and everything's kind of happening at once. And they're like, I know I'm supposed to write a book. You know, maybe they had a dream. Maybe their guide told them. Maybe, you know, it's just something within themselves, a knowing. And they know it would help promote their expertise. I mean, it really does put you up on a notch when you have a book behind you. But they're like, I don't know when I would have time, or maybe they don't know where to start. And so I've started this program called, I don't have a technical name for it yet, but it's about shift, and it's about finding that balance in your life. So then once everything balances out, then you can do those things that you're really being called to do.
That's nice.
So that's how that ties together.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, that's wonderful. I like how you're encouraging people to not wait until one day over the rainbow to write.
Exactly.
That's so nice. Because then we can have more wonderful books out there, you know what I mean? More variety. People can find more of what they want. I know for me, my like driving point to write has been like I'm going in the grocery store and I'm looking at that shelf of all the books to buy and I just don't see my book. You know, I feel like, well, maybe I have to write it. And then you know, one day
It always helps if you write it, then it can be sold.
right, you have to do that first. So that's incredible. And I love what you were saying about how to you it's really obvious how the two are intertwined, the writing and the healing. And I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of people agree with you. Right now, it's in May. I think the transformational author experience with Christine Closure is going on right now, and there's a
Yes,
lot of
it is.
free calls and things like that. That's at transformationalauthor.com. And I'm not affiliated. I just know that that's great. It was great for me when I first started listening to that to see the connection between the spirituality, the healing, and the writing. And when you really let go and it all comes through you, it's totally a fantastic experience.
Well, and after taking 15 years to write my first book, I've now written 5 more. So it's like the floodgates open, and you start realizing, I mean, the last book I wrote with and published within 6 weeks. So it's
Wow.
yeah. So it doesn't have to be a difficult experience. It doesn't have to be painful.
Cool. I like that. That sounds good. I've just got some like inspiration right now. I'm just like, as soon as this call is over, I'm gonna go work on my book.
Right. Note to self, after Sophia hangs up, she's going to start writing.
Oh my gosh, I will. I have to now. Now it's been announced. And I just want us to give a little shout out to everybody who's here live. Yay! We have live people. And everybody on
Yay!
replay, I still like you too. So thanks everybody. And let me just check to see if we got any questions from anyone. Anybody questions? Oh my gosh, I want to know, do you have any tips for writers to help them to be as prolific as you are? Do you have any tips for them? I know we
Okay.
could probably go on for hours, but sorry.
That's okay. Tip number 1, of course, is to, step into the shift and get the blocks out of the way, because obviously as much as you're trying to jump over those blocks, they're blocking you from getting the writing done. And author Tom Bird, who wrote Call of the Writer's Craft, I believe is the name of his book, he's at tombird.com, he talks about getting rid of the mind garbage. And he does that by having you write, you get stacks and stacks of index cards, or I use little sticky notes, 1 thought per card, and you just start dumping, mind dumping. And pretty soon you start realizing that some of those cards are, like key points for your book, and some of them are, oh, I got to go to the grocery store and get eggs. But you just, whatever comes, you just let it dump and dump and dump. And that helps to clear away the mind garbage. And another tip that he taught me that I use always is to use large sheets of unlined paper. So instead of sitting down with your notebook and carefully scrawling out this beautiful script, what you do is you get these big artist pads, and you just maybe get color markers or whatever, like really gets your passion's flowing, and you just start writing. And you don't try to criticize it, you don't try to organize it, you just let stuff flow out. That's the first step. He taught me that, and I believe in that 100% because that really did help me. And then once you get to the point where it's written, I have written a book called Seven Easy Steps to Professionally Self-Publish Your Book. So this book is currently in revision. I think last I looked there was 4 left on Amazon. I think I have 6 left here at the house. But it's after those few are gone, it's gone until the book comes out again in revision. But that's a great book especially for entrepreneurs who need print books and are trying to figure out, how to professionally do that so it looks like a quality project. So.
Wow, you've got everything from soup to nuts. You've got the inspiration and the healing that you need, and the clearing the space to make the book, and the inspiration part all the way down to the publishing. Wow.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for having so many resources for us from you. Oh, that's so nice.
Well, I've been
Cool.
working with authors for over 20 years. I've been involved and was on a board of a national writers organization for about 16 years. So I've been on both sides of the publishing river, and I know a lot. So, one of the things that I do is when authors are ready to publish, I offer them a free 30-minute call. And there's no obligation in that. It's just to talk about what's right for them and what would be a good option for them. It's not a sales call. It's not, buy my stuff call. It's like, hey, what are you writing? How do you intend to do this? What's right for you kind of call. And I've been doing those for years and helped a tremendous amount of people through that.
Cool. That's great. Because I know that when I was first starting, really every book starts with a big idea, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to put it down into a title, you need to put it down into a back cover, the paragraphs there, and a lot of people don't think about how important it is to get really condensed with your story. And I think that, well, that sounds like a really great thing to offer someone, because I know I could probably have gone on for half an hour about any book I was writing.
Right.
So that's awesome. Cool. Do you still offer those? And if so, where should we go to sign up?
You can find that on the Authors Profit website, authorsprofit.com, and I believe you can access that just by clicking my contact button on there, and it'll take you to a place where it says free authors call, and you sign up for those. There's
Cool.
and I'm in the process of revamping the publishing page that is there, so that's going to be changing soon. But pretty much when you're talking to me, you're tapping into 15 years of self-publishing expertise. So
Wow.
pretty much anything you want to ask me about publishing, I can either answer it or tell you where to find the answer.
That's so awesome. Wow, you've been doing this a long time. Before it was a thing, because
Absolutely.
Amazon was just a baby. No, it was around for 10 years, I guess. But did you publish through, what did you originally publish through? I'm just curious. I don't know if those sites are
Well,
still.
my first books were published by publishers, and then my transformational healing book I self-published, um, and I use Lightning Source, which most people now would go through something called Ingram Spark. Um, Create Space is okay, because of the way the industry is changing. Is kind of there's again it depends on the author which is the right way for you. Um, but those 3 are the ones that I would recommend. There's you have to be so careful about the vanity presses these days, what they call author services companies, because you just end up with problems, or you lose quality, or you lose profits. There's a host of problems if you go that other route, although it costs less sometimes, and so people get caught up in, oh, well, it's not going to cost me anything to publish, so I'm going to go and use this company, but it ends up costing them on the back side of that. So
Hmm.
I just like to warn against that, I guess.
That's great. Thank you so much for that information. Wow. 15 years of publishing experience, and I don't even know where to start. Oh my gosh, because there's so many different elements of the bookmaking process. It really is entirely complex when you start to take on all of the roles of a publisher for yourself. So there's everything
That's
from
true, but there's only 7 steps, and one of them is writing the book.
that's
So that
true.
only leaves 6. Yeah, I have this down to a system.
Oh my gosh.
But yes,
Wow.
there are hoops to jump through. I mean, really, I think it comes down to just having good information, whether you have a guide to somebody to take you through those process, or just good information as to do step 1, step 2, step 3. It can be done really well with a relatively small budget if you need to do it that way.
That's fantastic. And I have one more question for you. We're getting close to the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that your book has been able to help people, and I know that for a lot of us to know we have a responsibility to get our book out there is really, really wonderful. So I wanted to just sort of, now that you've published this book, for many years you've had it out there, and I know that it's touched the lives of many people. I wanted to know if you wanted to share a little bit about that side of it.
About the marketing side of it,
Of how it's helped people, of
of
how
how it's helped people.
your healing book has helped people.
Wow, that's that's a deep question, and um, some of my favorite things. And I just finished updating one of my pages, and some of the things that I've seen. Again, this book talks about shift in different ways and healing in different ways, and I've seen people totally shift into different things. For example, they decide that they want to end a relationship that's been bad for them for many years, and they want to get out of it. I've seen them say, I've always wanted to move to the country, and they finally do that. I've seen where they start new businesses. I've seen where sometimes I know people, including myself, where they actually have like some surgery, or they have some life-changing healing event that totally flips their life into a new fast lane, I guess I want to call it. I hate to use the word fast lane because that kind of scares people. Oh God, I don't want to go in the fast lane. My life is already crazy. No, I don't really mean it that way. What I mean is we have this huge potential in us, and this book has opened up tremendous potential for people. They finally see, my favorite symbolic comparison is the ugly duckling. And here is this swan who doesn't even know he's a swan, and doesn't even know how beautiful he is or how much potential he has. And then through the adventures that he goes through, one day he realizes, wow, I'm a swan. And so I like to tell everybody, and for those of you who are listening, whether you're listening live or whether you're watching this later, you are a swan. You have this tremendous potential within you to be this wonderful person. You were born for a reason. You are here for a reason. You have a mission. And in order to tap into that fullness of that, you need to do one thing, and that is follow your heart. And one of the things that this book does is help you do that, but you can do that without reading my book, obviously. So, follow your heart.
That's so beautiful and so true. Oh, thank you so much, Jamie. And I know you also wanted to share a free resource on your site as well.
Right. One of the things that I'm working on right now, it was one of the resources that I've had for a long time, is called a Quickie Symptom Analyzer. And if you go to my website, authorsprofit.com, and you click on the coaching page, at the very bottom, there's an audio that walks you through the basic process. There's no sign-up page or anything. You can just listen to that. You don't have to give me your email or anything, and that's just something that, one of my ways of giving back to people and helping them to tap into that swan potential that they have.
I will definitely be checking that out, and that's wonderful. And that was jamiesaloff.com, is that right? Or
No,
sorry.
it's authorsprofit.com. You can find me from saloff.com, but this resource is on authorsprofit.com, and you can spell it either like profit the money or profit the divine intuitive.
Yes, because you're both. Wonderful. Cool. Well, it's been a really, really amazing interview, and I have lots to learn from you still. I'm going to check out your book. And we were talking about, let me just say the title again was called Transformational Healing, 5 Surprisingly Simple Keys Designed to Redirect Your Life Towards Wellness, Purpose, and Prosperity. Lots of good stuff, sounds like. And of course, I also have to thank you for the invaluable artistic inspiration that I'll be taking away from this call, and probably a lot of people who see this too. So I want to thank you again, Jamie, and for everyone here, thanks for coming, but especially to Jamie for taking the time to join me today on this lovely afternoon. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was very, very enjoyable.
You're welcome. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you because it sounds like you're going to keep on writing books.
And helping others to do it too.
Beautiful. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. And if you'd like to have more information about events, you can go to www.sofiawren.com and there'll be more information there. So see you guys next time.